Israel releases images of Palestinians suspected of Hamas involvement as the humanitarian situation in Gaza worsens.
President Zelensky addresses G7 members and the Ukrainian parliament ahead of crucial talks on EU negotiations.
An exclusive Euronews poll showed Portuguese voters backed the decision to trigger early elections after the government scandal.
Coastal erosion and climate change are causing homes to be abandoned on eastern England beaches.
Images released by Israel of Palestinian men stripped to their underwear and sitting on the ground in northern Gaza, heads bowed. The army claims it's detained hundreds of people who are being interrogated for suspected involvement in Hamas activity. The exact circumstances and dates of the detentions are unclear.
בג'באליה ובסג'איה אלה מרכזי כובד, אלה גם מחנות פליטים של מחבלים ואנחנו נלחמים בהם. הם מתחבאים מתחת לאדמה ויוצאים החוצה ואנחנו נלחמים. חלק מהלחימה הזאת גם מי שנשאר במרחב הזה הולך ויוצא החוצה, חלקו מפירים, חלקו גם מהבתים. אנחנו חוקרים ובודקים מי מקושר לחמאס ומי לא.
Israeli soldiers, meanwhile, celebrated Hanukkah, an important religious holiday, as the army continues its bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Heavy fighting has continued through central and northern parts of the Palestinian enclave. At this vast displacement camp in Rafah in the south, like elsewhere in Gaza, humanitarian aid efforts are crumbling due to intense fighting. The United Nations says hunger among refugees is no longer a warning, but a reality, with most families not getting adequate amounts of food each day. And UNICEF says the Gaza Strip is once again the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. With the winter coming, they don't have enough warm clothing and blankets or food and other basic needs.
A rocket attack that hit the US embassy in Baghdad on Friday morning caused minor damage but no casualties, US and Iraqi officials have said. This is the first confirmed attack to the US embassy since the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war. The embassy is located in Baghdad's heavily fortified green zone, which houses Iraqi government buildings and embassies. The US military says a total of 78 attacks have been carried out against their facilities over the past few weeks.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he expects crucial votes for the parliament by the end of the week, mainly focusing on several decisions concerning the start of negotiations with the EU. Addressing G7 leaders, Zelensky hoped Ukraine would join the bloc sooner rather than later.
Ukraine has fulfilled the European Commission's recommendations, and by the end of this year, we will adopt all the decisions we promised. And we hope that the European Union will also fulfill its promise to Ukraine. The decision to start association negotiation with the EU is a powerful energy for us, the energy of unity.
France's President Emmanuel Macron has met with one of Ukraine's main obstacles, Hungary's Viktor Orban. The Prime Minister says promising Ukraine possible EU accession is a mistake, and he is against the passing of another big aid package, crucial to Ukraine after the US Senate failed to pass their own. As troops try to keep warm in freezing conditions, Russia continues to target power infrastructures in Ukraine. The EU has proven vital to providing electricity to the country when needed.
The iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris is set to reopen its doors in 1 year after being destroyed by a fire in 2019. The announcement was made from the top of the newly rebuilt spire by French President Emmanuel Macron.
Ce 8 décembre est un moment très important parce qu'il marque une date, un an avant que Notre-Dame de Paris ne soit rendue au culte et aux visites. Et c'est très émouvant de se retrouver là un an avant. Vous voyez l'avancée extraordinaire des travaux, de cette nef du chœur, et les charpentes et de la flèche.
Macron said that the Pope will be invited to the inauguration. The French president also announced the creation of a Notre Dame museum and that a contest will decide the design of the stained glass windows.
Spain's economy minister Nadia Calviño. She's just been named as the new head of the European Investment Bank. When she takes over on the 1st of January, she'll become the first woman to hold the post. As the bloc's lending arm, the bank has grown in importance since Russia's war in Ukraine, with the top job attracting some of the biggest names in European politics, including Denmark's Margrethe Vestager. The EU Competition Commissioner had to step down temporarily to run for the job. She'd been the front-runner until Calviño pipped her to the post.
Portugal is at a crossroads with early elections due in March following Prime Minister António Costa's shock resignation and the dissolution of parliament by President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. It came after the government became embroiled in a corruption investigation. In an exclusive poll, Euronews, in partnership with Portuguese news outlet Jornal Sol, has been surveying attitudes among voters following the dramatic developments. In the circumstances, there is a large support for Costa and de Sousa's decision. More than 78% said Costa was right to step down amid the scandal, and almost 83% felt the president was correct to immediately trigger an election. So how do the parties stand with several months to go to the national ballot? The opposition Social Democratic Party is on course to top the vote with some 22% of ballot cast. The Socialists are seen as coming second on 19.5%. Far-right party Chega would consolidate its position as the third biggest bloc with almost 13%. But the scandal that toppled the government is not the most important issue for voters, according to our poll. Most Portuguese, close to 53%, are preoccupied by the state of the public health service. 38% feel inflation and the cost of living are the main concern, while housing and education are the top priority for more than 1 out of 4 people. The 10th of March election is being watched closely by observers in Brussels, as it could give an indication of how people may vote in the European elections, which follow just 3 months later.
Along the east coast of England, people's homes are disappearing. The relentless force of the sea causing rapid coastal erosion at an accelerating and alarming pace.
There was like 2 or 3 roads. You'd have to go up and down the dunes 2 or 3 times to actually get to the sea from here, and there's that amount that's gone.
And now we're just a few metres away.
Yeah.
An increase in storm surges, intensified by increasingly erratic weather patterns, are devastating the sandy cliffs along this coastal stretch. Metres of land recently plunged over the edge, the local council now poised to dismantle the newly abandoned homes closest to the cliffside of this sea-battered village.
This is somebody's driveway, and until very recently it led to a road that connected to homes along this beachfront. But now that road is on the beach. These homes are just metres away from the same fate. Local people say coastal erosion is speeding up rapidly.
It is climate change itself. That's what's going to tear not only this nation apart, but many others. And those that are able to survive it will be those that have organised for it now.
Experts are warning local governments and nations must brace for the challenges ahead.
Over time, those storms will be more extreme, in line with the changes that we expect with climate change. So we need to be prepared for that, and we need to understand how to prepare communities in the long run to be able to be resilient and withstand those kind of events.
Coastal communities across Europe face an uncertain future as climate change speeds up erosion. Luke Hanrahan, Euronews, Norfolk.
The Ja, eigentlich ist Nordmazedonien von der Sonne verwöhnt. Da sollte ein Ausstieg aus der dreckigen Kohle einfach sein. Doch wegen der Energiekrise geschieht hier genau das Gegenteil. Uralte Kohlekraftwerke blasen Unmengen von Schadstoff in die Luft. Schafft es Nordmazedonien mit der Energiewende? Gibt es überhaupt noch einen Hoffnungsschimmer? Eine Recherche hier vor Ort in der Kohlegrube für euronews.just.
Тата светска криза, знаете дека се помести сите рокови, каде што сега сме во тек да отвориме и трет рудник, живојно, така што за наредните 30 години би имале доволно јаглен да работи нашата термоелектрана.
This will completely destroy the coal exit strategy. The closure date needs to remain 2030. If the EU accession does happen, I think that we will have to close the power plants before we accede.
When the last coal mine, when the last coal power plant will shut down.
Во Македонија мислам дека е предвидено по стратегијата за енергетика негде 2030 година да се затворат сите јагленови копови.